Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Listen, you already know what's going on. It's all over the news. We're going to be talking about the CEO assassin. Condolences to Brian Thompson's family. You guys, this is completely tragic. You know, there's a lot to cover, and we're going to touch on a lot of things, a lot of sensitive topics. Some things might make people feel uncomfortable, but listen, it's okay. This is a part of the process. I am going to give you my expert opinion as a former law enforcement officer, someone who's investigated numerous murders, nothing like this, quite like this, you guys. But I'm going to give you the perspective, my perspective, as if I was on the actual investigative team. What things would I be thinking of? How I would look at this evidence? What ways I would execute an investigation, and what am I seeing now? Right, a lot of people are talking about a lot of stuff. I've heard some people who claim to be experts making some statements that sound absolutely ridiculous, missing the point. But I'm going to give you a different perspective to actually examine this case, right? Why do I say that? You guys, when you're investigating a crime, something of this magnitude, what makes a good investigator is somebody who's a critical thinker, someone who's willing to think outside the box, okay, and not necessarily be confined by their own biases, right? Making sure they chase the evidence and not let the evidence chase them, okay? Not getting caught up in what the suspect wants you to think, but also be able to foresee what the suspect is actually thinking. Where is the motive coming from? And who are the most likely suspects that you need to pay attention to? You guys, this is a high profile crime. Okay, the victim, we're talking 20 million plus earner annual a year. I think 10 to 20 million. He probably has a $500 million net worth that we know about. There's a lot of potential suspects. And right now, a lot of people are kind of honing in on the idea that the suspect may be a victim of some type of insurance fraud, or, he had a loved one that didn't get their medical coverage or taken care of or something like that, which could still be possible. But sometimes the answer being too simplistic, it might distract you from what the real motive is. Okay, why do I say that? A lot of the arguments discussing right now surrounding the suspect is that whether or not he's an expert or an amateur, you guys, that's irrelevant. Okay, why do I say that? Because he was able to execute his plan. Okay, the only way to tell whether or not he's an amateur or an expert is whether or not he actually gets away with this crime, right? He evades all detection. He evades being captured. People are saying, okay, well, he's an amateur. He showed his face. Look how he shot. He shot him in the calf, and things like that. Like, that's not an expert. Some of you guys don't even know, don't have a clue of what an expert looks like. I consider this guy to be, we don't want to call him an expert. I would say he's definitely not an amateur, and this is not the first time he pulled a trigger and taken somebody's life. I think what he executed was well thought out, meticulated, and he did it with a level of comfort and ease. No stress, no fumbling. He was very calm, and this was a well thought out assassination. Okay, that was successful. That's another thing, okay, that you have to add. It was successful. Apparently, so far, they are tracking some leads. We don't know all that they know, but I have issues with the information that's been put out. I'm going to give you my thoughts in reference to that. But right now, they're like, hey, look, we identified a potential gun that he may have used based on the video. I'm going to play the video. I'm going to play a little extended version of the video. I don't know if you guys have actually seen this particular video because they've been stopping it. I'm going to show exactly the video when he was actually shot, how he stumbled to the ground, and how the suspect walked up on him and continued to fire. Okay, so everything will be blurred out, but you will be able to see a lot more than what you probably have already seen. All right, so I'm going to play that clip. So stay tuned for that. We're going to play one video first, kind of breaking down just a small summary of what the background of this situation could possibly be about. Some of the darker secrets that are being exposed surrounding Mr. Thompson and his work at Unitedhealthcare. Okay, so let's play that clip. Then I'm going to play the shooting. I'm going to give you my thoughts, and then we'll kind of go from there. And I want to know what you guys think. All right, so let's go ahead and first dive into this.
Cops confirm the assassin waited outside in the freezing cold for Brian Thompson, CEO of Unitedhealthcare, till he came out. Police also recovered 3 live rounds and 3 bullet casings at the scene and a cell phone nearby. And we have brand new footage obtained by the Times of the killer around 10 minutes before he murdered the powerful health insurance executive. And here he is on his cell phone, less than 200 feet from what would have been the crime scene. Who's he talking to? Looks like he had a busy morning. New pictures show the shooter went to Starbucks before the murder. After firing multiple rounds at very close range at Thompson, he runs up 6th Avenue and into an alleyway before hopping on a getaway e-bike, which he dumped in Central Park. That's the last place he was seen. He had a getaway plan. Police are putting up wanted signs all over the city, begging for tips. All the cops know is that the gunman had it out for Thompson. They say the shooter was lone target and that he's not believed to be a threat to anybody else at the time. We're also learning more about the victim. Brian Thompson was a very well-known businessman who'd been running Unitedhealthcare since 2021.
Okay, let me pause there before they start giving you some backstory in reference to Brian Thompson, okay, because this is important. Let's talk about the evidence that they found so far, okay? They have video footage, right, of him staying in a hotel. They have video image of him going to Starbucks, buying some sort of energy bar and a bottle of water or bottled drink. Then they have him, prior to the shooting, walking and on the phone, okay? Last, they have him actually walking up behind Brian and firing shots into his body. Initial shot hit him, some people are saying, in the calf and the leg first, and then the back, and then you see him walk up on him and fire again. I don't know the total of shots, but according to the news, there are 3 shell casings found, and then there were also 3 bullets, live bullets, found at the scene. And those bullets had markings on them, I believe with a black Sharpie. And the markings said, on one bullet, deny, the other one, delay, and the other one, depose, okay? So those are supposed to be clues, like a message, all right, that were left intentionally. A lot of people are arguing that if he wasn't an amateur, he wouldn't have left that. He wouldn't have left a shell casing. He would have used a revolver, right? He would have used something that the shells would not have been left at the scene. You guys, that's the problem. People don't know what they're talking about. Obviously, he wanted those things to be left at the scene. This is a message that was left for somebody or some people. Okay, this is a clear message for some people or for somebody. For those who don't know, Brian Thompson was supposed to be going to an investors meeting for Unitedhealthcare that day. Okay, so the people who understand what that coded message is, they absolutely understand what that message is, and it was a very blatant and direct message that was left for the people who need to hear it. Okay, and the suspect obviously wanted this to be captured on video. He did it right under a camera. Everything was just very, very well thought out. All right. So we're going to break more of that down. Let's get back into the dark side of this situation with Brian Thompson. And then I'm going to give you my thoughts as to kind of how I would be looking at this case.
Quite successfully, the company raked in $8.5 billion last quarter, just in one quarter. Thompson was a Minnesota native. He was even photographed with Tim Waltz at a charity event just a few years back. Thompson was in town for a Unitedhealthcare investors conference. That's where he was headed. Conference started at 8 o'clock in the morning, but Thompson got there a little early to prep. His killer was waiting for him. How did he know where Thompson was going to be? And what is the motive? A lot of speculation about why. And the cops are already poring over his personal and professional life. Unitedhealthcare was going through some pretty sizable legal issues. It's being sued by the Justice Department for violating federal antitrust laws. And according to a report from Cranes from back in April, the DOJ was looking at company executives, including Thompson, for insider trading. UnitedHealth didn't tell its shareholders about the federal probe, Senior executives, including Thompson, reportedly sold millions of their own shares before the story hit newsstands. Thompson was never charged. Others speculate it could have had something to do with United denying claims at a very high rate. Thompson's wife says he's been threatened over that before. Quote, there have been some threats. Basically, I don't know. A lack of coverage. I don't know details. I just know that he had said there were some people that had been threatening him. John Walsh, former host of America's.
That's kind of the most important thing from that segment. Let's dive into it. All right. The insurance company is being investigated. At least the board members are being investigated for maybe insider trading, fraud, or something to that effect. Okay, he sold some shares before the investigation information got leaked because they obviously concerned about the stock price dropping. So a lot of people end up sharing off their shares. How much, that hasn't been released yet. Okay, but what does that say? Okay, there's obviously some fraud, some corruption going on. So apparently within 1 quarter, they end up raking in about $8 billion. Yes, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of denied claims. A lot of people didn't get, a lot of procedures and stuff done. Well, we know where the money went. It went back into the company. $8 billion in a quarter. Jesus Christ. Well, I'm curious to know how much they took in for that particular year. So anyways, you guys, a lot of people are speculating different things. There is a lot to uncover with this, but let me give you my thoughts. How am I looking at this as an investigator? As things have been unfolding, my theories have evolved, okay? When I first found out he was assassinated, the first thing that always goes to my mind is you got to look at the people closer to him. Always you start with the spouse, people closest to him, because they have the most intimate knowledge of him, his whereabouts. One of the biggest things with this is this guy is a multimillionaire. Someone knew his actual plans for that day. They were able to lie in wait, figure out where he was staying, and really catch him at the right moment, okay? That's a concern. At one point, I'm looking at the wife, okay? We definitely want to tap into that and kind of see what that's about. But then the information got released in reference to the federal investigation. Then I said, that's suspicious, because that changes everything, right? You guys, he's been assassinated. What does that mean? There's a good chance, you guys, he was an informant for the federal government. Either that, or he had already complied. He was sharing information, and he was probably going to take down a lot of powerful people. And then somebody sent somebody to go and see about him, okay? Somebody who would have intimate knowledge of his goings and comings throughout the day, and wanted to make a statement. That made perfect sense to me after hearing that. So there's a couple things here. One, is this a situation where it's a disgruntled family member who wants revenge for not getting proper health care? Possible. Would I put that at the top of my list? No, I wouldn't. I would look more so, this is somebody who may have been an informant for the feds. There's a good chance that the feds know why he was assassinated, and they're not telling us. One of my biggest concerns about this entire case so far is how much information is being shared as they're actually recovering it. That to me is very suspicious. It's very, very, you don't really see this too much on a high profile case because it can interfere with the investigation. Now, if the feds are involved, all this play by play, I mean, it's almost like every time something new comes up, they're sharing it. So I just find that very, very suspicious. I believe that he may have been working with the feds. There's a high likelihood of that. And obviously someone knew about it and they probably took him out, right? What's my other theory? You could still you could still keep in play the wife. What made me think the wife is probably also in play was because I learned that the wife is actually estranged and that they don't even live together, okay? So when I heard that information, I said, well, the wife could very much well be in on it as well, right? So you guys, I'm looking at every possible angle. And then we have the actual physical evidence. People are like, oh, he's sloppy, right? He walked up, so far from him, and, an expert wouldn't have done that. He shot him in the leg, which means he's not an expert. He shot him in the back. And this, we were looking at things that aren't really relevant, because if you're trying to create a particular scenario, if you're trying to create a plethora of red herrings, you guys, this guy is doing a great job at it, because he's getting people to think a particular way. And all the conversations that are surrounded behind this seems like he's actually leading them in a particular direction. People are thinking that he's not an expert. Why? Because he shot the guy in the calf. You guys, listen, if you're not a good shooter and you shoot someone in the calf, if you intended to shoot them there, that's a good shot, right? You shoot somebody while they're moving, it's very accurate. The question is, did he miss any shots? Okay? Did he miss any shots? Just from the video, the stance that he took, how deliberate he was very calm, very focused. You know, people are saying, well, if this was personal, this seems like it was personal. I don't know. Every personal shooting I know, the person does it right in front of them. They want to make a statement before they take the person's life. That's been very consistent. I've never seen or worked a shooting where it was personal and the person did not want the person to know that they were actually getting ready to end them, okay? So to me, this being shot in the back, it just seems like business. This is business. I need to get it done. I have a small window. I need to get out of here. He had an entire escape plan, everything all laid out. So, and then people looked at the way he was handling the weapon. Okay, he kept touching it. It looked like initially that it had jammed. Okay, one of the things that made me think this guy was a professional or that he's done this before is that he had a weapon that has a suppressor on it or a silencer, right? Either or, how you want to call it. And the suppressor, for me, I'm thinking, you guys, listen, this is New York. They have cameras and they also have technology there where if they hear guns, same thing in Chicago, if they hear gunshots or if the device hears a certain sound over, I'm not sure exactly how it works. We don't have it in Georgia. But if they hear the sound and it registers as a gunshot, then it would automatically alert the police. All right. So obviously at 6 a.m, you don't want to draw any unnecessary attention, even though there was a witness right standing by the door when he executed his attack. Okay. What does that say? That this guy means business, you guys. And assassins and hitmen, they do not care who's around. Sometimes they might take them out, but it doesn't stop the mission. He was very confident in his ability to get away. He was confident in his disguise, and it didn't slow him down at all. There were people, looked like cars that were actually on to his left, and there was a person off to the right who was running after he did his thing. It took a matter of seconds. He was in and he was out. So we're going to actually break down that video. I'm going to play it right here. And what is my other theory before we get into the video? After kind of looking at all this stuff today, I said, you guys, what if he's faked his death? Okay, listen, I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy. But truth is stranger than fiction. Okay, and the reality is it's a very strong possibility. Again, a good investigator is someone who's going to think outside the box, who's going to critically think, why is this relevant? If someone is being investigated by the federal government and they truly have been doing things that could completely ruin their life or do whatever, it's not far-fetched to believe that somebody with that money, that resource, that power, the ability to do it, yeah, to fake your death, absolutely. Absolutely. And you got it captured all on camera. There are plenty of people who've tried to fake their death in the past, you guys. This is not uncommon. Some have gotten caught and a lot have gotten away with it. And someone would argue, well, how would he pull this off? Blah, 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 blah. You guys, money. Money is definitely, he'll give you a good Houdini trick out here. You got this guy over here playing John Wick, and you got this wealthy man who is like, I'm going to escape this prosecution, right? And who knows, right? Again, all I'm saying is I'm going to give you a different perspective to think about. Tickle the mind a little bit, get you guys to kind of open up. All right, so let's dive into this video real quick. And this one is a little bit different because again, like I said, it's more of an extended version. All right, so I had this in slow motion. Let me just play it so you guys can see it. Listen, it's gonna be blurred out, but we're gonna actually see more of what actually took place. So what you see here, you definitely have him walking. He's looking very casual. Here you go. The suspect draws the weapon, long barrel gun, and immediately fires. Again, there's nothing wrong with the stance. In my opinion, he's able to execute. The shots over to the right, you see the witness. Look, obviously the vehicles to the left are occupied. Right in front of that, maybe a hotel. He fires again. But what you see him doing is he actually operating a bolt action, right? It's a bolt action pistol. And that's an interesting weapon to use. Another thing that I noticed, you guys, is that they did find a picture of him from the hostel. He had a different book bag on. All right, that's another thing. A different book bag. He had a black book bag. This one's a white book bag. Why is that important? Because honestly, to me, I don't believe that he did this alone. I believe that there may be multiple people involved in this actual operation. Maybe two, maybe three. But I don't think he operated alone. So here at this point, he comes around the vehicle, pulls the weapon out. He aims, and from my understanding, they're saying that he shot him in the calf. If he shot him in the calf, that's a good shot. Maybe he wanted to shoot him there. Maybe he wanted people to think that he wasn't as good as he is, you guys, but he shot him there. All right, from that distance, it's a good shot. I'm not a gun expert, but I've shot a lot of firearms. But I will say this, if he intended to shoot him in the calf, that's a good shot. I don't think he missed any rounds. If he missed any rounds, that's more believable. But I believe, from what I understand, is every time he pulled the trigger, it landed on target. There's someone saying that he was shot in the chest. So that may have happened, obviously, after he may have fell down. He walked over him and put a round in the chest. But he was shot in the back. What you do see, though, while he's walking, after that shot, you then see him start to manipulate the gun. A lot of people were saying that the gun jammed, and initially it made sense because there were there were live bullets on the ground at the scene. But the reason why it didn't make sense is because the bullets had writing on them, which means he wanted to leave them there. So if there were live bullets and there were only 3 shell casing and 3 live bullets at the scene, that means he may have already had them in his pocket and he just pulled them out and then dropped them, right? But those were planted there by the suspect intentionally to leave a message to the people he wanted to leave the message for. I don't even think the message was for Brian Thompson. The message is for maybe other people that are affiliated with him. All right. Here's the regular speed. Manipulate the gun, fire. Manipulates the gun, fire. Manipulates the gun. Fire again. And then after that, he just kind of diddy bops off, you guys. He just walks off like nothing happened. So this guy, I'm surprised this guy didn't shoot himself trying to do this in the video. So that's the video. That's kind of a more, everybody was stopping it kind of before the first shot. That's pretty much the walkthrough. From there, you guys, he walks away. A witness sees him walking away after the shooting. He runs down into like this tunnel. He's later seen on a bike going into Central Park without the book bag. He doesn't have the book bag. All right, assuming that's him. They find a phone, a burner phone. So people are like, how's this guy an expert and he's leaving all this evidence? You guys, you don't put all this planning together, and you're waiting and stalking and lying in wait, and you're real meticulous with, things that you're leaving notes at the scene of the crime. And then you slip up and make an honest mistake, like you leave your burner phone on the ground. Or you're like, oh my God, I drank this water and I left my saliva and fingerprint on the bottle. There's a smudge print on the bottle that they lifted. Obviously, they're going to test everything. If it's saliva or DNA is on the bottle, that's also going to be a problem. Why is that? Because the technology we have today, you guys, it can be traced. There's technology now that you can actually submit that information through like Ancestry.com, 23andMe, and they can match your DNA with other relatives that may have submitted DNA to that system. The police have been doing that for quite some time now. Shout out to y'all who gave your information. I don't know why y'all would do that, but yeah, police have access, investigators have access to that information. There's also facial recognition. So people are like, hey, listen, he was in the hospital, he showed his face, flirting with one of the lady at the front counter. The people who saw him inside the hostel where he was sharing a room with were like, he never took his mask off. But now you got this picture of him smiling. Okay, he's this guy, appears to be white-skinned gentleman. Kind of gives me the vibe that he may be foreign, that he's not from the United States. Maybe he had like a Spanish kind of face, maybe Middle Eastern face, but he just doesn't look, and that's just me speculating just based off of the bone structure, his nose, and things like that from that one photo. But I will say this, though. That though people are like, oh, we got his face, and this face, we can just, we're going to do this and do that. Listen, that face could be manipulated. Could have prosthetics on that face. It could be a mask. Okay? Listen, if we're talking about someone who is an assassin, someone who's hired, more than likely he is someone who may operate outside the country in different countries, and he was specifically brought in to avoid a lot of the cameras and facial recognition and things like that. And, listen, if you guys haven't seen prosthetics and things like that people can put together, studio makeup and so forth and so on, listen, all right, you don't have a clue of how good a lot of these people are out here. And when you're talking about someone this wealth status, they have access to people who can get the job done, who can make it look like a particular thing. It's a well thought out plan that's probably been planned for the last 3 to 6 months, maybe. Right? This isn't just a quick thing. I'm looking at who decided to set this meeting. I'm looking at who knew his ins and outs, his schedule, what family member. I'm looking at what phone calls were made that day out of the city in that area. I'm hitting phone towers. Why? Because the suspect is going to want to confirm that the job was done. Somebody got paid. Okay? I'm looking at where money has been moved amongst the people who work on the board, people who are, in the company, higher ups, who knew his schedule, who knew things that were going on that day. You have to look at it. If everybody's a suspect, everybody is a suspect, down to the wife. Okay? Somebody gave this man information that allowed him to carry this out in the manner that he did. Who is this guy? He's definitely trained, former military. Not saying U.S. It could be any country, but definitely former military. And this isn't the first time he's done this. It's very obvious it's not the first time he's done this. Everything, all the evidence that we have looks like it's evidence that he wanted to give. These all look like red herrings in order to really distract you and pull you away from the true motive. Somebody who hired him is being shielded by the evidence that he's leaving behind. Because right now the conversation is this has something to do with a disgruntled healthcare victim who had insurance and may have got the bad end of the stick. I don't believe that. But I think that's the perfect narrative to sell. Or this man faked his death. So now here's a picture of the actual gun that investigators are saying that they're looking into now. Okay, they're saying that they found a manufacturer in the U.S. where this gun is actually has been sold. This is like a bolt action handgun. It's a 9mm with a suppressor already attached. Okay. I don't know how accurate that is, but this is what they are saying. This is what they are leading to. This weapon is a made in Switzerland 9mm caliber. They are saying this is a bolt action pistol with the suppressor. And again, the purpose of the suppressor obviously is to mask the sound as well as the flash from the gun being fired, right? So that's really the benefits of the suppressor. So this is the gun that they're thinking that they actually believe has been used. So obviously, I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but maybe just based off of the video and seeing how he has been maneuvering the firearm. This is an image of the suspect that they are saying is a person of interest. One thing that I want to point out is the bag strap, okay? The bag strap is black. The bag strap that was seen during the actual assassination was white. It was like a white or a light colored strap, a light color book bag, and the suspect was wearing all black. So they're saying this guy here is a person of interest. This video, this footage was, or screenshot was taken at the hostel, at the hotel where this gentleman was staying. They suspect that this is the actual shooter or person of interest. Okay, that's what they're calling him, a person of interest. So we don't know. But the reason why this guy is a person of interest is because they found out that the ID that he used to book the hostel was a fake ID. So of course he's a big time person of interest, but this is New York where fraud is high and heavy. So, regardless it's a lead, it needs to be walked down, right? I was saying that he took a Greyhound bus from Atlanta to New York, and he stayed there several days, obviously putting his plan together. I also state that he had things already obviously laid out and staged. He had things staged, like the bike, maybe change of clothes and other things he already had staged. So of course what's going to happen is, guess what? They have strong, sophisticated cameras in New York. They're going to run those cameras back. They're going to run them back. They're going to really canvass that area and see who staged this bike, who staged these items, when did they stage them. And they're going to actually start going backwards until they can piece it all together. So if this guy's an amateur, we're going to find out, right? We're going to find out if he's able to evade the authorities. This is no amateur. And even if they get enough information, if he's no longer in the country, it doesn't matter. And if someone has paid this man to take out a multi-millionaire top level executive, then he's on a private plane and he's already out the country. Okay? He's already out the country. These guys, listen, I've had cases, I've had friends who work cases where cartel members have come across to the U.S. to carry out kidnapping and hits on people, and they were back across the border before breakfast. Okay? And these are drug hits. Okay? These aren't high-profile CEOs. These are high-profile gang members who are blending in society, living in high-end neighborhoods, and cartel members show up, kidnap, duct tape you, and they're off with your children, and they leave a ransom note. That's the type of stuff I've seen. Okay? Some sicarios coming across, knocking people over the head and then heading back. Okay, so again, this is not a stretch. All right. And a lot of times with these corporate guys, these high level, and they're in these secret organizations and secret societies and brotherhoods, or they're politicians, senators and congressmen and things like that, or congresswomen. You guys, these folks have access to private contractors, private operators, retired military personnel who come out and do these things on U.S. soil. Okay? So, and they make it look like an accident. I'm like, oh, so-and-so was found floating in the pool. Somebody was drowned right outside the house of, right? Look at the Clinton body count. Look at the Obama's body count. Come on now, you guys, and they do this stuff. If they want it to look a certain way, they'll make it look a certain way. That's why you have to kind of look at all angles, and you can't leave anything on the table. So, expert, professional, call it what you want to call it. Titles don't matter. The job was done, and the guy obviously got paid. The question now is, can you figure out who did it? You know, we have homicides within our cities, cold cases that have not been solved, and these jokers live in the United States. All right, and they damn sure didn't get paid to do some of the stuff they did. And there's a lot of unsolved murders, you guys. And so I'm just saying, okay? I'm just saying. So anyways, that's my thought so far. There's no new updates, okay? They're still chasing this thing around. We're going into the 48-hour mark, so things are going to get a little stiff. But it seems like, the New York investigators, federal investigators, they feel confident on how things are unfolding. We're not going to get answers right away, but you never know what happens, right? So I'm all big on just let the truth be exposed. Let's kind of see what happens. So I hope that I sparked some new thought, right? If you weren't thinking about these things, again, these are the first things that came to my mind, kind of how I would kind of look at the situation, kind of what I would do. But again, it doesn't mean that that's what the case. Sometimes it can be just that simple, and sometimes it can be extremely complex, and we will never know all the details because we don't have all the information in front of us. But I hope that this conversation really just kind of sparked a new area of thinking to get you to kind of broaden your perspective on this investigation. Anyways, that's it. Let me know what you guys think. We're going to stay close to this. I'm curious to see the updates. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, like, comment, share, and subscribe. With that, good night. God bless.